Today's Tuesday tax tip has to do with a notice issued by the IRS approximately 1 week ago. In this new notice issued by the IRS, they have raised the amount of money that taxpayers are allowed to spend on capital assets and not depreciate them. In other words, in most instances, when a taxpayer purchases equipment, furniture, it is not allowed to be expensed all in the year of purchase. You have to depreciate that over a number of years, whether it's 5 years, 7 years, etc. Typically, if the taxpayers had spent under $500 on an item, and of course this still has to be backed up by an invoice, but typically if a taxpayer had paid under $500 for an item, the IRS didn't worry about depreciation. They just considered it de minimis, and you were allowed to write it all off in 1 year. That $500 number has been in existence for many years, and the IRS has now raised that to $2,500. So in other words, now if you purchase a laptop, a tablet, a smartphone, anything under $2,500, as long as the appropriate documentation is in hand, in other words, you'd have to be able to prove to the IRS through an invoice that you did purchase the item, you're allowed to write it all off in the year of purchase. That's a nice advantage for the taxpayers, well overdue, and I thought everybody would like to know that before the end of the year. And as long as I have a little bit of time, I also wanted to remind everybody to get the rest of your year-end planning in order. In the last few years, the IRS has allowed taxpayers to spend as much as $500,000 on equipment and deduct it all in 1 year under something called Code Section 179, which is different from the de minimis rule that I discussed earlier. The problem is the IRS has been putting this law into effect very late in the year and making it retroactive. In other words, last year they put this $500,000 amount in on December 19th, retroactive to January 1st, but if you hadn't spent the $500,000, it only gave you 12 days to spend it. So I will update you if that law changes for this year, if you're allowed to spend more, but for currently, taxpayers are allowed to Section 179 only $25,000. But again, if you haven't done that yet and you have some extra income and you're in the market to buy some furniture, equipment, maybe a truck, it may make sense to do this before the end of the year to get the deduction in. So, hope this tip helps you out, and I will see you again next Tuesday.